Hello, 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 and welcome to Secrets of the 1%, the debrief. This is the show after the show. We've been doing this for the last several weeks now and loving it because we're able to get in and sort of pick the brain of Amelia Thomas, and she is going to join us right now live. Amelia, hi.
Hey, Renee, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of this great, valuable information with us. Tonight's episode, and by the way, for those of you who are here with us, who've come into the live stream, please pop in there, tell us your name, where you're from, and this is your opportunity to ask Amelia questions about what you just saw. And actually, you might be able to pick her brain about some other things, some of the other shows that we've done, but you can reach out to her on your own for that. But today we're talking about how to scale your business to 100 million and more. And Amelia, when you started this broadcast, you were talking about do you have big dreams for your business? And I think when you said like not just millions, but hundreds of millions of dollars, I was like,
hmm
oh, that just seems so, untenable, unreachable. But you laid it out and it's really not, is it?
It's really not, Renee. At the end of the day, if you are solving a problem in the marketplace that people really need, then you theoretically, if your audience is big enough, you theoretically could build a $100 million, several $100 million business. Now, it's not easy. I think more of us need to strive to build bigger businesses so we can help reduce the unemployment gap in our communities. But it is absolutely possible. And it definitely starts with, what product or what solution are you trying to bring to the marketplace? What problem are you attempting to solve? And again, how big is your target audience? And so if you have a big enough problem and enough people are willing to pay you to solve that problem for them, because it's really a pain point that they're willing to pay people to solve, then we potentially have something that could generate $100 million or more in revenue per year.
Wow. Talk about legacy and leaving a legacy for your family. Um,
Absolutely.
you ran through a couple of really quick and important points. The first one was hiring the right talent. And, I've never been in a managerial role or a role where I had to hire and fire people, and frankly, that leaves me completely cold. But the importance of hiring the right talent. You said don't just go with like a recommendation from a neighbor or a friend. Does this person fit in your long-term vision for your company?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. So, as a person who finds themselves in that position, and as a person who has hired individuals that were not a good fit, maybe because, they came from a recommendation of someone that's close to me, near and dear to me, or a family member that I felt like could just solve that need. Like, I felt like there was a big enough problem and I just needed it solved. And I was like, oh, if I just get a body in that position, then everything will be okay. No, I can tell you from firsthand experience that it does not work that way. And I often end up wishing that I had just taken the time to properly source for that candidate or have the team properly source for the right candidate, for the right fit, not only in terms of experience, but the right fit culturally. Because guess what? You waste 6, 9 months, a year of your time trying to train this person and get them up to speed. It never works out. They end up leaving anyhow. You're back at square one. Not
Mm.
only are you back at square one, but you've lost thousands of dollars in the process,
Wow.
because you had to pay that person. And now, guess what? You're still in the hole because that role still needs to be filled. You still have to go and source for that position. So now you're down even more money. So it's just a never ending cycle when you hire wrong. And that's why they tell you hire slow, fire fast. You
Mhm.
want to make sure that you source the right candidates, and you're not going to always get it right. But there is a methodology to hiring or bringing someone into your organization, onboarding them properly, making them feel like they're a significant and welcome part of the team. And then you have to work on your overall retention plan. What are you doing to make sure that you can keep that team member happy and keep them on board? So it's a whole process. And, money just seeps from within your fingertips when you do not take the time to hire properly.
Yeah, I've it's interesting to watch bosses have to go through this because you think, I mean, when you're on this end of it, like on the end that I'm on, where you just like sign the paperwork and you're like, okay, I'm an employee or whatever. But when you're actually hiring somebody to round out your team, and
Hmm.
that you're right, you do need to sort of vet them properly and make sure that this is going to be a good fit, because if it's not a good fit, not only does it mess up you, but it could like really have an impact on your entire team and your corporate culture, right?
Absolutely. We actually had to release someone a little earlier this year because we found out that he was slowly becoming a cancer on the team. Like when we would have one-on-ones with our team members, we would notice that they were saying little things um, that were totally outside of their vocabulary, but was totally in this particular person's vocabulary who we had deemed to be a cancer in the organization. And
Mm.
so you definitely want to make sure that you help people escort themselves out the door the moment that you realize that they're not a good fit, or that they're trying to bring dishevel or chaos into your organization, because you
Mm.
just simply cannot have that. Like, we have too many goals, we're too driven, we have services to deliver to our clients, and we just cannot have internal upsets, particularly centered around one or two people because they're upset. So, uh, company culture and fit is so important, and making sure that you stay on top of your business and not allow other people to run the business for you, so you can see when there's problems early enough. And again, course correct, fix them, and get those people out the door as quickly as possible.
We see a couple of people in here. If you're here, please tell us who you are, where you're, viewing us from, and here's your chance to ask Amelia a question. Um, I was just going to ask you this, and you sort of already answered it, but I was going to say, have you ever had to fire somebody? Because Amelia, I, I, I'm a pretty outspoken person, but I'm also like, oh, but wow, this must be so hard for them, and this is a bad time of year for them, and they have families and all that
Oh
other stuff.
no.
But that's not how you run a good business. And you definitely don't scale a business using that, right?
That's correct. It is hard. We are human. We have emotions. We have feelings. And I think about that too, like, oh my gosh, it's the holiday time. I would hate to do that. But guess what? We released someone last week. They just were no longer a good fit.
Mhm.
And again, you have to think about what's best for the business. If you can find a different position for that person that you could probably shift them into. Maybe it's a lateral move into a different position that you feel like they have a better skill set for. We do attempt to try to shift people around before we just release someone.
Mhm.
Because particularly if they were a good person, and maybe not just so good for that position. But if they're totally a cancer, or they're totally not a culture fit, it's just not going to work out in the long term anyhow. And if they're not fulfilling the needs that you need for them to fill at your organization, cut them loose. It doesn't matter when it is. That's just a part of doing business, and making sure that you're controlling your bottom line. And that means making sure that you're not paying people on your payroll and paying unnecessary taxes on their behalf
Yeah.
when they're not doing a good job.
Oof. Well, when you put it that way, yeah, and when it's your business, that's really what we're talking about. You're spending time to kind of bring this person along, and it's not working. That time, that's valuable time, as you know,
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur. Real quick, I just want to also say that you talked about protecting yourself by developing an employee handbook and making sure that everybody is clear on the expectation, and also, if you do have to fire somebody, making sure you have proper documentation and perhaps even a witness. I mean, those things you would think are pretty basic and we should all kind of know, but I think that bears repeating and reminding.
It's not basic. It's really not. Even us, we have 28 team members, and we just hired our first HR consulting firm this
Mm,
past year. And they've been a godsend to us because we really have had some transitions. We've had to have some tough conversations with our team members. And guess what? Many people, while they may have an employee handbook, many times it's just a template. It's just something that they've gotten from their payroll company or found online, and they just replace their company name, but it's not customized to their organization at all. And therefore, when they find themselves in disputes with their employees, whether it's an employee or a contractor, that document does not hold them up like it should because it was a
mm,
template. So it's very important for documents such as your legal employment documents that you do hire an HR consultant or some type of legal assistance to review those documents for you. We spend over $1 million a year in payroll, and that is a lot of money to have documents that are just templated that don't really protect the organization in the
yep.
event that we have to go to court over a disgruntled employee
Mhm.
or a disgruntled contractor. So um, making sure that those documents are just not templated, that they really are customized
Mhm.
to the needs of your organization is paramount, because you do not want to get caught in an employment dispute with some state's regulatory agency over an employee and you have a templated document. They're going to take you to the bank. Uh,
Right.
they're going to take you to the bank, Renee, and that really could have been avoided had you just invested maybe a few $1,000s just to have those documents crafted or tweaked to
Mm,
benefit your organization. And not only that, Renee, you also want to make sure that you're updating these documents regularly. Regularly, for us, we look at them every 6 months. Sometimes we have to look at them quarterly. It just depends on the nature of the changes that we have in the organization. So it's not
mhm,
a document that just sits and is never changed. It's a living, breathing document. Every
mhm.
time you hire someone, whether it's a contractor or an employee, they're signing that document. So you want to make sure that document stays as current as possible as you continue to expand your team.
Sure. As I wrap this up, I just want to say the overarching, I guess, sort of thing that I take away from the time that we've spent on this series with you is this idea that you take these few steps in advance of the big sort of you make sure everything's in place so that you don't
Hmm.
run into trouble on the back end. You do the work on the front end so you don't get in trouble on the back end. You pay attention
Hmm.
to the detail. You do all of these things. I'm getting this sense that
It goes back to planning.
right, right. Absolutely. I love it, Amelia. Well, Amelia, next week is the series that we're going to talk about the episode that you said you like the best, which is investing in real estate. So those folks who are in watching, who've been enjoying Secrets of the 1%, please make sure you tune in next week. And again, Amelia, you said you like this one. Why?
Oh my goodness. I love this particular episode because we have no idea how much money exchanges hands and therefore leaves our community when we're
Mm,
buying building or refinancing a home. So this episode really sheds light on that so we can really understand how much money literally just seeps again from our communities every
Mhm.
time we buy a house, every time we build a house, every time we refinance a house. I mean, it is astronomical. And we need to do a better job of keeping money in the community and understanding how much money is being moved in real estate will help us do that.
Yeah. All right. So that's next week. And then we, of course, will have our same talk back after that as well. Amelia, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for the time that you spent with us on this series and this invaluable information. And have a good night, Amelia.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Renee.
Thanks, everybody.